Hey everybody, Guy here from Chit Chat. Thanks for continuing to listen. Thanks for bringing us along in your AirPods or your headphones or whatever you're doing today. We're thankful that we get to be here and a part of your day. Just got done recording a really fun podcast with Michelle Henderson from Bad Cat. I've known Michelle kind of through Chamber primarily, but we work in the same industry here in town. We both have buildings downtown. We're in so many ways we're kind of trying to do similar kinds of things, and we care about our community in a similar kind of way. And so we got to have a really fun conversation. It kind of veered into a number of different things. We talked about quilting, which was really, really fun, legitimately really fun, and AI and St. Cloud and what we hope keeps happening here in our downtown as building owners here in this community. So again, we're really, really thankful. I'm so thankful that you continue to listen and you continue to support us. It really does mean a lot. Thanks, everybody. Okay, we're live.
Oh, great.
It's going. Michelle, thanks for coming on the podcast.
Yes,
really
thank
appreciate it. Our goal with the podcast is to talk to interesting people that are doing interesting things in our community.
And I don't know why you invited me.
I do. Yeah, we're neighbors. We each own buildings downtown.
Yes.
We're in the same space with
Yeah.
our marketing agencies.
Yeah.
And we.
So what are we going to talk about?
I mean, I think we've got so many things. But just to start, would you just introduce us? Who are you?
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about Bad Cat Digital. What do you guys do? What do you specialize in? What do you care about?
Yeah. So I'm Michelle Henderson. I started Bad Cat now almost 9 years ago. And
Did 9 go fast?
yes. And fast and slow. Anyway, we'll get to that, I'm sure. But yeah, so we are a primarily search agency. We do a lot of digital work, a lot of websites, and a lot of search work, a lot of writing and video work, and a lot of really helping businesses utilize their ad dollar better. The auctions online can get really confusing, and you can run into businesses really throwing a lot of good money after bad. And so we really pride ourselves in kind of helping make that efficient and spending our clients' dollars the way that we would spend our own.
Yeah, well, that's great.
Yeah.
And I think, kind of mostly got to know each other by serving on the FLC together, which for the uninitiated, the FLC is the
fun location
committee for Chamber, which is the group that kind of hosts the Friday mornings. It's the Friday morning connection is kind of like the flagship kind of program.
Yeah, we kind of like danced around each other in other community things before that, but just really never got to know each other. But that was a fun time. Serving together on that committee.
Yeah, it really was. I love Chamber. I mean, I've talked about it on here a number of times, but I just think there's something so fun about Friday mornings. I think my favorite thing about Chamber is that the room is kind of for you. Like everyone there, like there's no secret. Everyone there, they're trying to sell something. They're trying to grow a business, and that's great. Like we want businesses to continue to do well in our community, and the people that are showing up there to do that thing they're trying to do that, and so they're kind of rooting for everyone else to also do that thing. And there's just something fun about
it's something really cool.
Yeah,
I'm in a business networking group, and one of the people that was there. I was having a really bad day on Wednesday, and just one of those mornings there, everything seems to go wrong, and it just doesn't connect or click. And I just felt so much better when I got to the group. And somebody else in the group said, this is where you can come. If you're having a good day, you bring the room up, and if you're having a bad day, the room brings you up. And I feel like that's what Friday morning does as well.
Yeah. And Michelle was actually the chair of our fearless group,
the fearless leader of the fearless group for a little while anyway. It's really strange to sit in that seat and kind of like, I don't know, it feels like you're holding something for somebody else.
What do you mean by that?
Well, there's people who've gone before you. There's people who are going to come after you. You're never. It's
not yours.
It's not yours.
Yeah, right.
So there's a sense of like care for something that will be somebody else's someday. And
you're
so
like stewarding it.
Yeah. You're kind of like shepherding it along for a short period of time. But it's never really your own.
Yeah.
And it's an odd combination of things because you don't get to choose necessarily how you show up in it. But yeah, I had a lot of fun, and I am really proud of how I left it, and I'm proud of who I chose as the vice chair, and he's doing a fantastic job as chair now. So yeah, it's really good.
Yeah. Cool. So at Chamber, there's like, these little, you give your little 10 or 15-second taglines.
Yes.
And the reason I bring this up, would you share yours? Because I think, like, if I'm making like a Mount Rushmore of my favorite taglines, I think yours is on my Mount Rushmore.
Is it really?
Legitimately.
Okay.
Legitimately.
I've been saying the same thing for 9 years on Friday morning.
Bang that drum. Bang that drum. It works.
So I say I'm Michelle Henderson with Bad Cat Digital. We do search, we do ads, we do social media, because the best place to hide a body is on Google's second page.
I mean, I think it's so good because you use like a little device, like hiding a body.
Yeah. Something that's a little visceral and like ridiculous. And I mean, it's not, I hope it's ridiculous if you know me.
Yeah. But to highlight how devastating it is for your business to not even show up on the first page. Like, what do you find on the second page? You find this horrific thing like a body and also businesses that are not doing well.
And also, there is the other element of SEO that people don't talk about. Search engine optimization is the art of kind of getting people to rank toward the top, but it's also the art of hiding things in the middle. There is an element of that, and we do that where it's kind of a reputation management, and if a business gets sued or something happens, those news results, your business goes through bankruptcy, and now all of a sudden that's the news. That can be devastating to the future of your business. So there's a way to kind of like make that not disappear, but just bury it because people don't look.
If you can if you can get it off of the first page.
If you can get it off the first page, then it
kind of goes away.
It's like it's not gone. But in the whole GDPR kind of stuff with privacy in Europe was all about the right to be forgotten, the right to get your profile off the internet, and they're still working on how to do that. I mean, there's still lawsuits pending about that legislation in Europe. So it's like, there really is no way to take it down. It doesn't go away. It just doesn't show up.
I think it's kind of, I feel weird about some of that stuff because I mean, what we do for work is, like, for work every day, we're trying to help people like do better in their business and ultimately like show up in a very digital world.
Right.
And I don't want that for myself. I want it for my businesses, but I don't want it for me. Like, I'm conflicted. I'm kind of conflicted and torn
I'm
about.
I'm kind of a tinfoil hat kind of person too. Like, the more you know about these things, the more paranoid you are.
Yeah.
The more you recognize that, like, all of these companies have so much information about you.
All of it.
And there's nothing that, there's nothing that moves faster than the technology. So laws, legislation, politics, all of that stuff, nothing moves like the technology moves. So there's, Tesla's a data company, not a car company. Like, Apple's a data company, not a phone device manufacturer. Like, data is the value, right? It's the cryptocurrency that really is real. And they're not sharing it, not because they have some sort of moral obligation to not share the data. It's because it's too valuable to share.
Yeah. If the product is free, you
are the product. Yeah, absolutely.
If you have to sign up and give all your information and the thing that you're about to participate in costs you nothing, that means that you are showing up.
It costs you something. There is no such thing as free.
Yeah.
And so when we talk about that with our clients all the time. If you're a business and you're building a digital landscape for yourself, if you're building a website, if you're building this, there's no such thing as free.
Yeah.
And so that software has a breach, and there's nothing you can do about it because it was free.
Yeah.
So if you used it on your website, you're kind of out of luck. There's nobody you can call or go to. So nothing's free.
I mean, you've been doing this longer than just the 9 years that you've had Bad Cat. But in your career, what have you seen change in relationship to maybe security, but for sure SEO and SEM and all that stuff? How has, what are the major themes of some of the movement and change?
It's really weird because the more things change, the more things stay the same. I think the platforms and channels have changed, but their goals really haven't ever changed.
It's just eyeballs.
It's just eyeballs, right? Get eyeballs. And Google's goal is to be the best answer to any question. That's their goal.
Yeah.
And so how they define best answer has changed. But not as much as you think.
Yeah.
It's really, with so many things moving so fast and so many things kind of on the bleeding edge, at the end of the day, there's still giant companies that are like Titanics to shift. And so, they could, most recently, for example, Google My Business, the Maps listing, you've probably noticed this started kind of cracking down on home-based businesses and taking listings away from people who had business listings in residential addresses.
And co-working spaces.
And co-working
Stuff has
spaces.
gotten
Stuff has
there.
gotten complicated and really difficult. And they're doing it on purpose because they want something from it. So what do they want from it? They want clarity for their user on what is a business and what is somebody's home. If you want to, call up your plumber, are you, going to his house or are you calling an office, right? Can you just stop by? And so, there were all kinds of changes to that map stuff in 2020, 2021 with all new things. But when Google made those changes, they also offboarded all of the staff that did that support. And it all went to a third-party contractor, and now they've had to bring it all back.
Yeah.
So it's like, these giant companies, it takes forever for them to change something. And yet the reputation is that they're changing every day.
Yeah.
But they're really not.
It feels like I get the email like every quarter from Google saying like your products have gone up in price.
Right.
Like
Well,
that
and then there's
email. That email comes
yeah.
all the time. And they don't even put in that email, they don't even put what it's going up by.
No.
You have to click, like, if
Yeah,
you
you have
want
to
to
click
know,
through. Yeah.
you got to go in. And I'm
Yeah.
like, I can't change anything.
Yeah.
Delete.
The Google Workspace has gotten competitive, like priced more in line with like an Outlook
Yeah.
product. And yeah, but the as they differentiate their business model and their revenue line from just ad revenue, all of those other products start to go up.
Yeah.
And there's some really interesting patents. If you want to really watch what these companies are up to, watch the patents that they file. Google filed patent, like Apple files patents about like wearables that penetrate the skin and can test your blood. Amazon files patents about advertising based on voice, like voice profile. So if your voice drops a couple of octaves, it can give you an ad for a cold medicine. Like those kinds of things get filed, and it's a really interesting way to kind of like see what they're thinking.
Yeah. I think for years I thought that Google was kind of untouchable.
Yeah.
Granted, you've got all these other players in the tech space, but they're all doing like different enough things. I know like it always feels like Google and Apple are like kind of like these juggernauts that are fighting each other. But it feels like so much of what they actually are offering actually kind of
so different, and they complement
each other.
Yeah, if Google ever figured out hardware or Apple ever figured out search, we would be so totally screwed as a society. They just can't figure out what the other is good at.
Yeah. And I think some of that parity is great.
Yeah.
But then, just recently on my phone, like up at the top, so with your apps, you can have just the icon, or you can expand the icon. And so, like at the top of my home screen, I had expanded my Google Chrome, because I like Google Chrome for search, and I had expanded. So on my home screen was actually the field, so I could just start typing my Google search.
Yep.
I replaced it with my ChatGPT search.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
There's so many times when I'm like, if I go to Google, I'm going to have to sift through to get this answer.
I'm going to have to sift through all of these blogs. I'm going to have to actually click on things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like I'm going to have to go into stuff, and I have to make it through all of these ads anyway. So I'm scrolling past all this stuff. If I just put that same question into ChatGPT, it's going to synthesize the information currently without any ads. And then I'm just going to get this answer. And if once I get that answer, I need more information, great. I'll dive in further. But it feels like, at least in my mind, that like Google search has been usurped for me by asking the same question to ChatGPT.
There's a big shift.
Yeah.
There's a big shift into search on ChatGPT, and you're starting to see it in Google, even just like the Google keyword trends.
Yeah.
Because on Bing, which is also a search engine that nobody actually talks about.
What's Bing?
What's
Yeah.
Bing? The top search on Bing is for Google. For
It is.
people who
Isn't that
don't know,
crazy?
for people who don't know how to like change their default search engine.
Yeah.
And one of the top searches on Google now is ChatGPT. And that's precisely why. But you just watch. In about 6 months, maybe a year, it'll be full of ads. It'll be full of... And the other thing that we have to remember about this AI stuff is that you could ask it, what is 2 + 2 and what is the meaning of life? And it's going to come back with an answer with the same level of confidence.
Yeah.
So, like, you got to take everything that AI gives you with a grain of salt for sure.
For sure. I was with one of our team members. We were having lunch and we were just doing this like fun, silly, like little trivia game. I like dumb trivia stuff, right?
Yeah.
And it's, we call it over under, right? And so I'd ask you like, how many gallons of water are in Lake Superior? Okay. So since I asked the question, then you have to say the number that you think.
Okay.
And then I guess over under. Right?
Okay.
And so
I say 40 million and you say...
And I would say over. And so I get 40 million and one all the way up to infinity, and you get 40 million and less.
And less.
Right?
Got it.
And then once we're done, then it's your question. And then we just go back and forth. You just
Okay.
It's stupid. It's
That's
absolutely
fun.
dumb. But like I love silly little trivia stuff like that.
Yeah.
It also is like kind of creative problem solving. You're thinking like, okay, well, how many gallons is a lake? And like there's something kind of fun about that. And so the question, it was yesterday, was how many times can the state of Minnesota fit into Russia? Like right?
Like landmass
Landmass-wise.
Interesting.
Yeah. The answer is like 79, right?
I was gonna say like 50.
Yeah, but we just plugged into ChatGPT just to see, and it did the logic perfectly. It said, here's the square miles of Russia, here's the square miles of Minnesota, and so if you take that and put it in there, it gets right? And then it said, would you like to see a visual representation of what that looks like?
Yeah.
And I said, sure.
Yeah.
And so again, what I'm thinking is I'm going to see the outline of Minnesota superimposed on top of like the outline of Russia, right? Just to see it in context.
Sure.
And what it gave me was the outline of the United States of America.
Okay.
With Alaska smashed into it.
Smashed into it. Okay.
And then another identical outline of America with Alaska smashed into it, and then like a Venn diagram, them just like overlapped a little bit. And it says like, here it is. Isn't that interesting? And I was like, yes. ChatGPT. That thing that I just saw. But
doesn't that call into question the answer that it gave you in the first place?
I mean, for sure, possibly. And if I needed to like really know that piece of information. Yeah, if you needed to really
know that. Because to me, like that question has multiple ways to answer it.
Okay.
Because you can take it purely by land mass, right? Or square miles, right? Like they did. Just a mathematical answer.
Which is what we were looking for.
But a shape tessellates into another shape, right? So like... How do you account for partial, like if you flipped Minnesota, you know what I mean? Like the gaps between.
This is all your quilting stuff.
Well, it's like, there's a visual way to do it too, where you would take multiple. So like how many Minnesotas can you fit into Russia is not necessarily how many times does the landmass of Minnesota fit into the landmass of Russia.
Yeah. It did answer the thing that
It answered the way that you wanted it to.
And again, whether I don't know for sure whether it's correct or not, of course.
But it also answered the way that you would want it to answer because it learns you. I mean, that's part of AI, right? It's the feedback loop. Like it learns your shortcuts, what you mean, so you get better answers over time.
And even that.
Just like Google.
Do you get better answers or do you get
your own answers?
Which is part of the issue.
Well, you get the answers that you would define as better.
That's right. The ones that you want.
Right.
Which is not an answer. Yeah, which is not. All of the technology is hard and weird.
Pretty soon we're going to be talking about like some sort of esoteric thing with Maslow's hierarchy of needs if we keep going.
Yeah. Anyway.
But there's multiple ways to kind of solve that issue.
Yeah.
And I tend to think really spatially. Like, like you said, I'm a quilter. And so I tend to think in terms of how shapes fit into other shapes.
Yeah.
But I always did that even before I quilted. I was really good at geometry and really bad at algebra.
It would make sense to me that you would find something like quilting then. Like it feels like a natural expression of that.
I don't know. Do you know that I went to art school?
Yeah.
That I have. Okay. So so I went to art school and then I ended up in a career that didn't
do that?
do that. And so
Furniture sales.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, it started with furniture sales and then it went into marketing.
Yeah, right.
And
For
I
the
still
furniture
use,
company.
Yeah, for
Yeah,
the
right.
furniture company. So I still use that kind of like education, that eye and whatever, but that creative muscle it just doesn't necessarily get used at work all of the time.
Yeah.
And so, having a way to exercise that doesn't have anything to do with a screen.
Yeah.
Because we spend our
Yeah.
whole day looking at
Yep.
screens. It's hard to, and I play video games too. So it's hard to it's hard to get away from, and I love movies and TV shows and stuff. So it's really hard to get away from screens. And so the quilting is a way to kind of bring something
Do that.
tactile into my
Yeah.
life that I can touch and feel.
Yeah. I mean, I had no clue. I was just getting to know you kind of through the chamber, but
Yeah.
there was an art crawl, I think, and I was walking down one night.
Yeah.
I was busy with something, and I came late. And I was
Yeah.
like, oh, it's like the last 30 minutes. I'm just
Yeah.
gonna go buzz through.
Yeah.
And
Oh, I remember that. Yeah,
Yeah.
you came in.
by the time I got to your store and walking by
Yeah.
because I showed up late, everything was closed, but you were still in there.
Yeah.
And I waved, and all of your quilts.
Yeah.
And for an hour, we stood there. I had no idea. And you guys, her quilts are incredible, like absolutely
Thank you.
incredible.
Thank you.
And I mean, the irony is like, I like learning about stuff that even if I'm not going to do it, but as a kid, my mom was a quilter.
Sure.
And she had this rule for my brother, sister, and I, the three of us, that when we were kids, we were going to work on a quilt with her.
Sure.
And you couldn't leave home until you had finished your quilt. The three of us each have an unfinished. We each have an unfinished quilt. But so much to the chagrin of my mother, we didn't quite finish it.
Sure.
But I did so much of that, and mine was very rudimentary. It
Yeah.
all squares and.
Yeah.
But
Whatever.
picking the colors was really fun, and thinking about the actual like quilting stitch that you were going to do. All of that was super, super fun. And now my daughter, Lucy, who is 10, is working on a quilt with my mom.
Oh, that's so cool.
And not only is it going to be done before Lucy graduates and leaves the house, like I think it will be done by
She's 10, so I would hope so.
yeah, like I bet you it will be done this year because
Yeah.
Lucy just loves it. She loves being
Yeah.
with grandma.
Yeah.
But she's creative and really organic. And so I
Yeah.
think there's a unique thing about, and again, I don't know much about quilting, but like when you have those shapes, like there's something really mathematical about it. Like they need to
There
line
is.
up.
They
Like it
need to
needs to
line
be
up.
straight and it needs to be right. But when you're picking your colors and your pattern, like there is something that is just like so free kind of about that.
You know,
and
you
Lucy's
should-
loving it.
You should introduce Lucy to Gee's Bend. Gee's Bend Quilting.
How do I spell Gee's Bend?
Geee
Yep.
Bend.
Okay.
It's a small African American community in, I'm going to get it wrong, probably Arkansas, maybe I would say. But these are women who make quilts with found fabric. And it's all improv quilting or improvisational quilting. And improvisational quilting is, think about quilting without necessarily the math.
Okay.
So it's like the jazz of quilting, right? Like you have these foundational kind of skills that you can use. But from there, you can, so instead of worrying about, does this piece plus this piece plus this piece equal 16, you spend all of your time looking at how they play together and how they make each other shine, and really like you kind of build the quilt really organically. And improvisational quilting, if she loves that part of it, after she gets some of those skills with her grandma, she may want to explore some of that. And Gee's Bend quilts they're stunning. There's something really earthy and beautiful about them, and something that's really rooted in this kind of like history of handicraft as an art form. I think a lot of times, quilting, I don't know. So there was this Netflix documentary that came out like, I don't know, a month ago or something, about these gentlemen in prison who are quilters.
Okay.
And I had all these mixed feelings about it because, this is something that women have been doing for generations, and then 6 guys do it and it's worthy of a documentary. The only documentaries about quilting that I have seen is that, and then Ken Burns, the documentarian, is a quilt collector. And so he has a documentary about his own quilt collection, which feels a little self-important, but whatever. It's Ken Burns. Like, he can be as self-important as he wants, right?
Yeah.
He's an American icon. And so,
legitimately.
legitimately.
Yeah.
And so, but this idea that women do something for generations and generations and generations kind of quietly in the background, and then guys start doing it and
From
it becomes
prison.
art. Yeah. That's a challenging one for me.
Sure.
So, I mean, I'm not trying to throw these guys any shade. They're doing an amazing thing, and they're making these quilts for kids that are in foster systems and kids that, really, I mean, it's a really wonderful thing, and it's a great little documentary. But you have that kind of like shadow to it. Like, okay, come on.
Yeah.
Like I've been making quilts for kids in the NICU for 15 years. Like, that's what we all do. Like, that's what we all do. So
this is part of that's what it feels like, part of the quilting culture.
It's part of quilting culture.
Yeah.
And so it's like, okay, great. Like, yeah.
My wife and I met at Camp Lebanon.
Oh, yeah. I've been there.
In Uppsala out on Cedar Lake. And I mean, they have, weeks and weeks and weeks every, it's kids camp all during the summer, but through the fall and winter, they have tons of like big giant quilting retreats.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of, I think it's primarily women or all women. I think a lot of them they're not making quilts for themselves. I think they want the fellowship and the hangout of like, I like this activity and all these other people like this activity. And so like, we're going to make, like, we're just making quilts for people that need quilts.
Well, and the big secret of quilt retreat at a Christian kids camp, because Camp Lebanon is a Christian camp for kids, is that usually the camp doesn't allow alcohol on the grounds.
That is very true.
But quilting is not. Quilters are maybe not a stranger to a glass of wine now and then.
So is it like hidden?
Always. Like you gotta, like it feels back like when you were in your dorm and you gotta like smuggle out the empties. Like that's what it feels like to go to a quilt retreat. To go to quilt retreat at a kids camp.
Yeah.
That's kind of what it feels like, because you're always kind of trying to hide it in, maybe your coffee mug is full of wine.
There you go. Things I didn't know.
Little secret, right?
Yeah.
So next time you go, you'll just be sniffing everybody's mugs.
I have never been. I don't think the invite is for me, I think. But
if you were to make a documentary,
that's it.
It would be.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because then, you could compete with the Netflix one.
That's right.
Yeah.
With their millions of dollars that they throw at all
Yeah.
that stuff. It's incredible. And I'm happy they do it because the stuff looks really, really nice.
Yes.
Story is the driving force for us here at Switchboard. Story is also the reason that Chit Chat exists. We tell stories of the people around us through photos, videos, branding, and websites. Story helps us find meaning, and it draws a community together, and we would love to help tell your story. You can find us at www.switchboard.mn. We would love to meet you, we'd love to talk with you and learn more about the story that you are trying to tell and how our story-driven marketing tools can help you communicate better. Can't wait to talk to you soon.
Okay. You have been a building owner downtown for how many years now?
Yeah.
Because Bad Cat you guys didn't start downtown.
No, we started in my basement.
Yeah.
But we did start downtown. So we were in the Maxell building, which is that kind of metal clad building over by the county courthouse.
Okay.
We were in there. That was our first office, because there's kind of a co-working, like individual office spaces there. And then we were in the building that United Way is in now.
Yeah, that's right.
And then we were in that little house next to just past the library.
Yep.
So I really have always loved downtown. To me, St. Cloud kind of is downtown.
Yeah.
Like if you leave downtown St. Cloud, you could, and you were just driving down the street, you could be like in any Midwestern town.
Lots of strip
anywhere.
malls.
Yeah. I mean, and there's nothing wrong with it. It's just, for me, like the life and the color and the flavor of St. Cloud is downtown.
Some would say the patchwork.
Yeah. Aw. Nice full circle. Nice. Very nice. So there really was no other place for me to look. I was really intent on being downtown, and much to my commercial agent's chagrin. And yeah, so we bought the building in 20.
Will you tell us the number one more time?
819.
819.
Yeah, 819. So it's a block away.
Yep.
Yeah, I walked over here this morning, so that was great. We bought it in 2021.
Okay.
So we're on 4 years. And when we bought it, it was our team was kind of sole occupancy, but we realized we weren't really using the footprint, and so we brought in some additional company,
like tenants.
Yeah, and it really it helps with the cash flow of the building, of course, but it also gives the building just a little bit more life.
Yeah.
You know, what we do is very, as you know, it you know, it seems really exciting to like a 17-year-old who's going to, I'm going to work in social media, until they find out that it just means that you're sitting at a computer for 8 hours a day staring at a screen. And you're trying to, pick between 3 pictures of things that look almost identical. So like, that's not overly exciting to watch from the outside. And so the building gets a little bit more activity in life with some additional people there.
Yeah.
Who are kind of like moving around.
So, I mean, it's no secret that, like, downtown, St. Cloud in general, but downtown St. Cloud is, it's ebbed and flowed, and with people, and, there are these things that we kind of navigate. In 2021, I mean, like, we were like at the height of global pandemic.
Yep.
Like, our downtown wasn't immune from some of the impacts of that. Why did you decide to kind of take the risk and to jump in to a place that, again, maybe to the chagrin of your commercial commercial person, why did you care enough to like push in like that?
There's only so long, when remote work started, when remote work kind of started, everybody was talking about, oh, this is going to be amazing. All of these, this is the future of work, and everybody's going to be, and I was like, it's not going to happen. Yeah. I was like 2 years, maybe 3. And then everybody will be back in the office because bosses don't like the idea that people can do their laundry while they're at work. And people naturally think that they can multitask, but multitasking is not a thing.
No.
When people think that they're multitasking, what they're doing is just shifting focus really, really fast. And
giving lots of things
very little attention. And so there's that. But then also people get lonely. People want connection. And not everybody finds connection through work.
Yeah.
And so they're perfectly happy to be remote and be with their families and do the thing. And there's plenty of jobs out there for them. There's more jobs out there for them now than there used to be, which I think is great because the technology enables that. It also enables more inclusivity in those jobs because it enables people who maybe couldn't travel to work or couldn't commute to get jobs in places, and enables people to live rurally when they're working in an urban space, which is really cool. All of these great things. Also, spontaneous collaboration is incredibly important to what we do.
Yeah.
And it's
especially
really,
in anything creative.
And it's really hard to get spontaneous collaboration over a Teams meeting
that we scheduled.
That magic thing that happens when you're walking past somebody's desk and you see something on their computer that lights you up.
Look at that.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
You don't get that when you're working remote. So, we had, because I as an employer, I just was like, you guys pick, but I want you to pick. I don't want this like, I'm in one day, I'm out the next kind of stuff. I want you to choose. And if you decide to come back to the office, then you're coming back to the office. Right. So that's what we did. And almost everybody wanted back.
Yeah.
And so then I was like, well, if they want back and they're all 28, then whatever I'm reading in the news is just a little bit behind this.
Yeah.
So I was like, yeah, this is going to work. Plus, downtown has been moving and adjusting for years.
Yeah.
The pandemic really challenged St. Cloud's downtown, but it challenged downtowns all over the place because it's a shift. So like in the 70s, there was this massive shift, 70s and early 80s, massive shift away from the individual retailers downtown.
To the mall.
Right? Killed downtowns all across America.
Yep.
And then downtown had to reinvent itself as a employer kind of office-driven space, right? This is the second wave of that. And downtown has to reinvent itself as a home base.
Yeah.
So people have to decide to live downtown, which means we need housing downtown, which means we need XYZ downtown.
Yeah.
And I'm seeing that and the will for that and the money for that come out of the community. And so that's what made me take the leap.
Yeah.
Because
That's cool.
the community just raised $750,000 to get us ambassadors downtown. They just started a month ago. They're amazing. Have you seen them? And they're
yeah.
bright green. Isn't
Yeah.
it great?
It's incredible.
It's so fantastic.
Yeah.
And they're training in hospitality, de-escalation, all kinds of things. The other cool thing is we were looking at the first dashboard by the company that we hired to do that, as we meaning I'm a part of the Downtown Alliance, and that's part of what we do. We hired this company to do this, and they provide us this dashboard of like incidents and the things that the employees do and kind of like the walking paths that they walk and stuff. I was really struck by their default report. So like we have this perception of downtown in a really specific way. And those of us who've lived in like uptown Minneapolis or something have a very different perception of St. Cloud's downtown. But like the default report has like, how many cigarette butts did you pick up? But it also has things like how many needles did you pick up? How many times did you, deal with somebody, maybe using a building as a public facility when it's not a public facility. I was trying to say that in the kindest way possible.
Peeing.
Yeah. On the side of a building, like graffiti, all of these things, right? And we have had a spat of graffiti recently. But before that, it's been 3 years since there was a spat of that. Yeah. There's no needles. There's no this. There's no that. Like, there's all of these things on this report is just like none.
Yeah.
And then it's like 500 cigarette butts.
Yeah.
Like I think they're going to change it to pounds because there's so many.
Yeah.
But like, it's just really, really interesting. I think when you actually look at numbers, the crime statistics for downtown St. Cloud are actually better than they are in Sartell. Like when you actually look at what is a crime, because it turns out it's not a crime to be maybe a little
loud,
drunk, or even just dirty and standing on the street.
Sure.
Or poor and standing on the street. We have housing downtown for people that are in really challenging circumstances personally, and the streets are their backyard. So people hang around. And it does make some people uncomfortable. But at the same time, people have to go somewhere.
Yeah.
Like they get to live.
Yeah.
So we're working on balancing all of that. But I think what's really, really cool about the momentum of downtown is that the buildings are moving, things are shifting.
Yeah.
People are like, stores are opening right, left, and center. People who have been sitting on property for years are now starting to sell it. We've got multiple offers on the Herberger's building right now. Like there's just so many cool things happening downtown.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm a fan.
Yeah, I know you bought downtown too. Why did you buy downtown? Because you already had a building. Why did you do another one?
I mean, there was like a bit, there was a business component to it. Like it was the right business decision at the right time for us. And then just on a personal level, I think I kind of came online as a human being downtown.
Okay.
Like I got my license, like 15, 16, 17, 18 years old. Like that's such a formative time in your life anyway. You're getting, you went from being able to make almost no decisions for yourself to, you're 17, 18 years old and like you check in with mom and dad and stuff, but like you're just running your own life in a lot of ways and you're managing your own schedule and okay, I've got real homework now and I don't really like doing my homework at home, but I love sitting at meeting grounds. And so I'm going to drive my car that I have and I'm going to go
to this place
and I'm going to meet people and I'm going to do my homework and I'm going to be, exposed to a different kind of life and things that I wasn't before. And I think I kind of like, boom, like I just turned on in a real kind of way downtown.
Are you excited for that stage with your own kids? Or nervous about it?
I think I feel some of both. both.
Yeah.
I mean, Cassie and I we do try to do a really good job not to be, like, I have no interest in being a helicopter parent or, any of that. But there are real dangers that you're trying to, like, mitigate on behalf of your kids. But in their own kind of way, they both really do a good job of when we give them opportunity to step into more responsibility. And we just talk about it. We try to do a lot of communicating in our family.
Sure.
And so, like, okay, bud, like, this is, we're going to let you bike to the golf course. Right? To like go play 9 holes,
Sure.
That was this summer, him and his friends.
That's super cool.
But that's a new thing for the Magno family,
Yeah.
And just those kinds of things. And just like talking about like this is a step towards continuing to grow and continuing to mature. And so when we tell you we need you to be home by this time, we need to look at your watch and we need you to be home by that time. And so continue to give them more opportunities to prove us right
Sure.
Right? Not to prove us wrong, to prove us right.
build trust.
Yeah.
Yeah, to build
And
that trust.
So we're looking to do that. And
Yeah.
would I send my 12 and 10-year-old to downtown by themselves now? No. But I'm excited that when they're 16, 17, 18 years old, that they want to start coming into the city, coming into the
Coming
city.
into the big city that is St. Cloud.
But like come and go and eat at a restaurant with their friends or whatever. Like
Yeah.
I am excited.
That's cool.
For that for them.
My mom was really big into natural consequences.
Yeah,
Like that was a
absolutely.
huge deal to her. So I remember the one time that I came home, I was in high school and I came home inebriated, as most kids do at some point in high school, right? The next morning, it was a Sunday, and my mom woke me up at 7:30 in the morning, and she said, I need your help. I need you to help me find a lamp for something. And she dragged me it was hot out.
Yeah.
It was like, for like 6 hours, she dragged me to every store that could possibly have a lamp. We went to like the fabric store. We went to like all these places that could possibly have a lamp, and they were all wrong. Every single one of them. And I just felt like I was just ill
Yeah.
and
Head hurt.
tired. My head hurt. I was sick. I was, dizzy. I was grumpy. And I just followed behind her, trying not to throw up for hours and hours and hours and hours.
Did she even need a lamp?
She never bought the lamp.
Yeah.
And never acknowledged what was really going on.
Mm.
Not a single time. Didn't say a word.
Mm-hmm.
Just did it. And that was 30 years ago now almost. 26 years ago now. And I called her on it this year, and she's like, oh my gosh, I totally forgot I did that. She said,
Thanks,
did it
Mom.
work? And I said, it totally worked.
Yeah.
I don't even drink to that point now
Mm-hmm.
because that, now that I'm over 40, every decade you add another day to the hangover.
Sure.
So now that I'm over 40, it's a 4-day thing, the hangover.
There you go.
But I don't even drink like that now.
Mm-hmm.
And I do enjoy a drink. I just don't drink to that level. Because it was such a visceral experience, the natural consequence of it. So there you go.
Nice
There's
job.
your idea.
Nice job.
Yeah.
Ma. But yeah, I think that's why we bought is just like, I love being downtown.
Yeah.
I've said it on this podcast so many times, but the meeting grounds were you here? Were you
No.
into, okay.
No.
There was a coffee shop downtown called Meeting Grounds,
Okay.
and it was the best.
Yeah.
And I don't think I will ever have like the nostalgia attached to my experiences in that coffee shop.
Sure.
I bet money that the coffee maybe wasn't even like to today's standards. The technology has come so far with coffee.
Yeah.
Our expectations for nuance and all that stuff is so different. I'm guessing that at the time it was a rudimentary coffee product, and I don't care one bit.
Yeah, it doesn't
I don't
matter.
care.
That's
one
not what it
bit.
was about, because
No.
it wasn't about the
No,
coffee.
it was about
Yeah.
sitting with my friends and laughing and studying and just being
Yeah.
a human being.
I really truly all the best food in St. Cloud is downtown. I met my husband at the White Horse.
All right.
We met online, and then I was living in Brooklyn Park, something like that. St. Louis Park, right in that area. And he was living here, and I drove up to meet him for lunch.
Yeah. At the White Horse.
At the White Horse.
That's great.
And then we hit it off, and we ended up wandering around downtown St. Cloud until dinner. And then we went to what was Sawadi at the time
Yeah.
for dinner. Was the best and longest date of my life.
Yeah.
My second husband.
That's cool. Well, sweet. Michelle,
Yeah.
really fun. Thanks for coming on the podcast.
Yeah, thanks
Fun-
for having me.
Fun to chat. I like knowing you, and it's
Yeah.
fun to be neighbors and fun to be downtown together, that there are people that are, there's so many of us that are just, we want this thing to do well. And so thanks
Yeah.
for everything you do to help be a part of that. And
Yeah.
it's really, really cool.
And there's volunteer opportunities if you're looking for
There
some
are.
additional
Yeah.
pulls on your time.
You're talking to me or to
Yeah.
the listener?
Both. But to you too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
We'll talk.
Okay.
We'll talk.
Great. Okay, we close every podcast with an unpaid ad.
Oh.
It's unpaid because you're not getting paid for it, and
Yeah.
it's just someone.
Who am I advertising?
Whoever you want. Someone,
Ooh.
something, or some idea that you think deserves a little shout out today, and it can be anything.
So one of the things that I think is really important right now is that we think about our nonprofit partners. There's some funding challenges out there right now that they're going through. So really think about the causes you support. One of the ones that I is truly near and dear to my heart is our local domestic abuse shelter, Anna
Mm-hmm.
Marie's Alliance. And the thing that I want to talk about with Anna Marie's very quickly is that what I love about them so much is it's not merely a shelter. It is also a hub of education. They go into the school districts. They talk about what a healthy relationship looks like. They're all about prevention and recognizing and understanding that abuse does not start in like this lifetime drama way. It starts with these small acts of control and this, this kind of like almost manipulative kind of gaslighting impact. And that can happen in any relationship on any level at any day. So I hope that people out there consider supporting Anna Marie's Alliance, but if not, think about the nonprofits that you care about and really be thinking about sending some dollars their way. They could use a lift up right now.
Wonderful. All right. Well, Michelle, thanks. Seriously, thanks for coming on the podcast.
Thanks. Nice
Fun to
depressing end.
Say what?
Nice depressing end.
Yes.
Yes.
Not a depressing end. Not a depressing end. An important end.
Yes. A weighty, interesting, meaty end.
That's good.
Yes. Thanks.
Well, sweet. Thanks for coming on.
Yep.